called Project for an Unidentified Political Object.
So can you lead us round it?
Yeah, basically, as you know, campaign is about the space of the imagination. And there's something about the way we think of the imagination as this kind of place, this limitless place which in a way accepts anything and has no sense of border. It's very similar to the way we think of the universe. In some ways, the universe could be seen as a kind of a reflection on how we think of the imagination, as similarly this limitless space that goes on forever. Something about the way we think, because we think through linear relations, we find it very difficult to understand the idea of border and nothing afterwards. So we think in terms of finitude, in a sense. So I wanted to think about the exploration of the universe as being a kind of exploration of the imagination. Because in a way, we make the universe through our imagination. It's like a representation of our representations, in a way, if that makes sense. So there's that, and therefore the big photographs, like this one over here, is a picture of Yuri Gagarin, first person in space. And then the one in the back room is a found still from a kind of space program film, which is like ground control, and the picture over here, in a way, represents the kind of nuclear family, about to populate the universe in a way. So the photographs do that. And then this object here, in the middle of the space, I was thinking about notions of truth and the universe, because there's something about, if you just take a very simple anthropological view, is, the notion of the sacred has often been associated with what's above, and that may come from primitive religions like the sun god religion, and the reason for that is you can see very clearly that the truth seems to come from the heavens, and there's something about that. Even now, if you want to speak truth, you stand on a stage, or you stand on a pulpit, or you stand on a minbar, which is the Muslim version of a pulpit. So this simple sculpture, in a way, represents that notion, is that you have that truth. To speak truth, you stand above, and what is above is, in effect, the crown. So it's a very simple representation of the crown. And obviously that's related to the universe potentially as well, is also the truth for us. That's obviously above. So through these narratives, I just wanted to create a kind of a very ambiguous possible policy in a way for my campaign, which is the populating of the universe. And that comes from mainly a Russian philosopher called Fedorov, who is known for a form of philosophy called Cosmism. And his particular interest, because it was a kind of early 19th century, late 18th century, early 19th century philosophy. He was a Christian, and his idea was we were going to basically bring back from the dead all the dead people of humanity, and then that kind of amount, that billions of people would then populate the universe. It was a strange philosophy. But nevertheless, what's interesting is that if you compare the Russian space program with the American ones, the Russians were always much more interested in living in space. And the American space program was about going somewhere and coming back, like a kind of object-orientated notion of exploration. But the Russians, and still now, they are still the most expert in living in space over long term. So Fedor, basically Cosmism, has run through the Russian space program in a kind of interesting way. And even Yuri Gagarin was a distant relative of Fedorov as well, which is somewhat strange. So yes.
How does populating the universe relate to your campaign?
Well, the campaign is about exploring the space of the imagination. So I see the universe in a way as a construction of our imaginations. and in a way exploring the universe in a way takes it to a kind of fantastical level. You know, our imaginations are as wonderful as the universe, but the universe seems more tangibly wonderful because we can look at it in a way, and it has this sense of horror and unknowableness.
Why did you hang Yuri Gagarin upside down?
Because he's in space. Very simple.
And do you climb those stairs and speak from them?
No, it's just a metaphor for truth is higher, basically. No. It's not a plinth for me to stand on.
Is the process of making these objects important to you?
Well, actually, all the photographs come from my spine project. So these were all collected because there were significant moments, in a way, ideological or whatever, which I've used for this project. The sculpture is knowingly crude. I made it as crude as I can. So the steps up to the steps up to truth are very crudely made, just butt jointed. And then when you get to truth, you get this kind of the standard kind of diagonal cut. But in a way, I see it as a piece of anthropology, in a sense.
I'm intrigued by the gap. Does truth spin on the top?
No, it doesn't spin, but it's slightly elevated. It doesn't seem grounded, in a way. No.
Where is this a photograph of?
It's a photograph it's a pressed photograph from the 1960s, late 60s, of a place in Bavaria called Rasting, or Rasting, and which was part of the German space program at the time. So it was a photograph produced to advertise it. I mean, it was originally rectangular, which I've cropped them all, obviously, and enlarged them, and selected the kind of view. But I thought it was quite nice because it shows the kind of early 70s, late 60s, quite hip family. And there's a kind of notion, because with the brolly and the satellite dish, there's a nice link there. But it seemed like a very positive idea of the pioneers, in a way, the possible pioneers who might start populating the universe.
When you had this, the opening for this exhibition, did you speak about your own manifesto?
Well, the manifesto's in the corner there. So people, at their leisure, they read it. I didn't give a speech or anything,
So this wasn't... what I'm trying to understand is this part of your campaign?
Yes, this is the campaign room. Yeah. So a classic campaign room, of course, would have tables and typewriters and posters. But I wanted people to come to the campaign room and think, oh, hold on a minute, this is an exhibition. This isn't a campaign room. In a way, that's quite a positive thing that people say that. And then maybe they read the press release, which says that it's the campaign room and talks about the idea of populating the universe. And then, as I say, there's something about the ambiguity of the art object that allows people in to create their own potential narratives, their own possible narrations.
Did anybody who is interested in local politics come to your opening and talk to you about your position as a candidate for this post?
No. It may happen, but not at the moment. I think that's more likely to happen at the hustings, when there's these public events where people are specifically going to ask questions.
Do you have a strategy for that?
I've thought long and hard about it, because it's quite a frightening idea in a way. Because people are going to that event for answers. And the thing about the campaign is it's specifically about I'm not really giving answers. I do issue these very oblique slogans, but they're not meant to provide an answer. It's more about, in a way, foregrounding the space of possibility as a place we can all go. So that, in a sense, that doesn't fit neatly with the hustings where people are expecting answers. So the position I will be having there will be asking people to be suspicious of why they want immediate answers. And also politics has a problem at the moment. I've been thinking about it because I have to give this hustings in a church. And church, the relationship between the promise and religion is quite strong through history, normally seen as an oath. And the problem we have, I think, a big problem we have in politics is the promises that are seen to be given are not oaths. So people become very suspicious of politics. Either politicians are interviewed and they don't want to give answers, or they do give answers, but you know that those answers or those promises may not be fulfilled. And that does create a problem for traditional notions of democracy, because the oath is very important to that process.
Where do you stand on the oath?
I mean, I guess I would take I think for party politics to work, the oath, it doesn't have to be sacrosanct, but it has to be seen to be sacred. I mean, things will change and people have to change their opinions. But if, let's say, someone gets elected on a policy and then that is changed purely at a whim for no obvious external reasons, then that is seen just to be a strategic oath. And as soon as oaths or promises become strategic, then people stop believing politicians, and then the process breaks down.
I want to ask you, what happens if you are elected?
Well, I think if I'm elected, I'll just carry on being an artist. I mean, I don't think anything changes.
Won't you be in a position of responsibility for other people's requirements?
Well, I mean, representative democracy, I mean, well, it depends what you mean by responsibility, really. Art is very important because it creates symbolic capital, it creates discussion, it creates notions of newness, whether it's new or not is another thing. It creates problems, it creates outrage. So you could, I mean, I'm doing that already in a sense. I mean,
yes, but for instance, somebody down the road who might come to your surgery and ask you to help with a problem they have with the neighbour's roof.
yes.
What would you do then? Would you simply tell them you're an artist?
No, I mean, one could talk to the neighbours. I mean, that's possible. I think one could be more than one thing at the same time. It's not either or situation, I think. But that's similar to making art. We all have jobs doing this, or we're parents, or we're this, or we're artists, or we're political actors, or whatever, you know what I mean? You're pedestrians. Life is complex in a way. So I don't think it has to be either or, that you're a politician who just serves the people, or you're an artist. The whole idea with the project is mixing, in a way, the tropes of fine art with what we consider to be the standard rituals of politics.
Thank you very much.